If you own a small business and you might be looking to sell, you could run into some major issues. Forbes estimates that 9 out of 10 businesses listed never actually sell. Why? Because there's only one way to sell. You need to do these 4 steps first. So if you want to be a part of the 10% of businesses that sell for profits, we've created a free checklist for you so you can sell without those hurdles that normally hold you back. Download the free checklist by visiting www.abundantculture.co/checklist.
Welcome back to the Abundant Culture Podcast, where business owners like you come to learn how to grow the valuation of their companies so they can sell in the future. On this show, you'll learn how to sell for top dollar and invest in profitable businesses around the country. Now, here are your hosts, Jazz and Joe.
Hello and welcome back to the Abundant Culture Podcast. This week, we want to talk to you about how to sell your business because I was looking through Reddit, I believe, like a couple of weeks back, and I saw the question. If it was on Reddit, don't quote me. I saw the question, selling my business, where should I start? And I'm sure that you're probably thinking the same exact question, so we're here to help.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that we want to touch on in the process of selling your business, and this may seem super obvious, but it's probably only obvious when somebody brings it up to you, and it's to first make sure that you actually have a business and that you're not just self-employed. And we talk about this in one of our previous episodes, but basically what it comes down to is, can you make sales when you're not in the business? If the answer is yes, you have a business. If the answer is no, you're an entrepreneur still, but you're self-employed. And you can own, the equipment, the real estate, or whatever the case may be. You may own assets within the business, but the point is the business doesn't work without you being there. And that's what makes you a self-employed entrepreneur. So you want to make sure that you're actually a business owner and that the business creates sales without you being there, because that's what makes it a true asset, and that's what makes it easy to sell to another person, because you never know, the other person that you might want to sell to may not want to be working in the business every single day. They might want to just do jobs here and there or whatever it is that they actually want to do. But if your business is not well put together, that doesn't allow them the freedom to actually do that. And the potential buyers that you can have actually open up when your business is able to operate without you. And I think that's something that is extremely important is that you get your business to that level if you actually want to sell it. Now, if you don't want to ever sell your business, it might not be 100% necessary for you. But if you're going to sell your business, and if that's something that you want to pass down to maybe your children or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that it has so many systems and such a team in place to where you're not needed in the day-to-day operations.
And when we say when you're not there, not needed, we mean specifically day-to-day operations, because of course in any business you still need to provide the general executive oversight and management of everything to make sure that everything is like flowing together like a well-oiled machine. That's usually the metaphor that people use for that. And so the next topic that we wanted to talk about was the business system specifically, because this is what helps your business become an actual business, like Joe was saying. And we dove deeper into this in one of our previous episodes, but we can dive a little bit deeper this time, more in depth.
Yeah, so the first system you want to make sure you have in place is a standard operating procedure, also called a SOP. Having an SOP basically is kind of like, imagine buying a car and there's no instruction manual for the car. Or imagine buying,
a baby dresser.
Or a playpen.
Because you don't know how to set those up with directions.
Exactly. Or a playpen or something without any instructions. Like any product you can think of out there on the market usually comes with an instruction manual, unless it's like food, because then it doesn't. But even some food, I'm pretty sure you can find food out there that'll say warm it up to this temperature, then take it out.
You're supposed to heat tea to a specific temperature to make sure that it doesn't get bitter if it's not supposed to be.
Absolutely. So if tea has instructions that go with it, shouldn't your complex business also have instructions that come with it. A lot of people want to sell their business, but they don't have things written down. There was actually this one business we were planning on buying, and it's something that me and Jasmine both wanted, but she wanted it a lot more than I did.
What was it?
The bakery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what happened was that the person had a decent business and it had a lot of potential. It would have been a very value add situation. We would have had to do a lot of things to get it to its full potential, but the product was like absolutely delicious. But in the walkthrough of the business, one of the things that the business owner shared with me is that he had a manual with all the recipes and ingredients in it, but he actually changed the ingredients so that if somebody stole if somebody stole his manual, they wouldn't be able to recreate the exact same pastries that he does. And he did that kind of as a safety mechanism for his business, which in some instances that is actually kind of smart because it's like nobody knows how to make what you're making but you. But it's
like the Krabby Patty secret formula. Like, yeah. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, that was actually cool. I never thought about that. But the reason why it hindered him selling the business is because we now cannot even trust the recipe book. So that means if we hired the best baker on the face of the planet and told him gave him this book and told him here's how the previous owner used to make the stuff, he would get it wrong. The product wouldn't taste the same. It wouldn't have the same texture. Something would just be off about it.
And the customers would notice.
Yeah, your core customers notice everything.
Yes.
The smallest things. Even if you make it slightly better, there will be a customer that'll be upset because it's not the same, even though it's better. They don't care. So it's super important to have that SOP. I can't stress that enough because eventually you can train the new buyer or the new owner as much as you want, but they're going to forget something. And when they forget something, it's only two things they could do. Go to the SOP, which, is the best option, or they have to call you. And what if something happens to you or they can't get in touch with you? Now they're screwed because now they got to figure out this process in the business that has already been figured out before, but now they have to refigure it out, which a lot of times just causes problems.
And it's just so inefficient.
Yeah. So one, you want to make sure that SOP is in place first and foremost. But secondly, you also want to make sure that you have a team. And what I mean by that is people who are in your business that make your business work. For example, Jasmine, before we hired a VA, used to do all of the editing and things of that nature for the podcast. And that's can be a time-consuming process, especially if you're, in school and running a business and doing other projects and things of that nature. It can take up a lot of time. Hours, actually minutes add up, and yes. Hours definitely add up. So one of the things we did was hire a virtual assistant, and now she handles that. And she's excellent with it. And we really appreciate that. And without her, the quality of the podcast might not be the same. And we probably wouldn't be able to put out as much content as we are currently doing and are getting ready to do because we wouldn't have the time to do the back office stuff. So you want to make sure you have team members. And a team looks different in every single organization. You're going to have different people doing different things. It really just depends on your specific business. One team member that I think is paramount if you're going to sell your business one day is a manager.
Yes.
If you have a business that you are looking to sell and you tell the new buyer or the new owner that there's already management in place, that new owner is going to literally hop over all the other businesses that they were looking at to focus in on your business.
I feel like your business is just going to be more likely to sell and faster than any other business on the market if you do have the management in place already, and if that is marketed as well.
Absolutely.
If you don't diversify your investment portfolio, you could end up losing it all. But most business owners don't know how to diversify to mitigate those risks. That's why we created this resource for you. This passive investing guide is a must-have if you're planning to invest in businesses. Don't hesitate. If you have more than 25 grand liquid, then you can't afford not to take advantage of this resource. Download the 4 reasons why in 2021 you need small businesses in your portfolio now by going to www.abundantculture.co/guide.
There's been companies before that we kind of passed up on because there was no management in place, and because the project would have taken just so much time that without having somebody there as a manager, it just, we can make it happen, but is it worth making it happen when there's plenty of businesses out there who already have some type of management structure in place? So I think one of the most key people is that manager, and I think if that's already in place, you've solved a lot of battles for that new owner. For example, one of the businesses that we bought already had a manager in place. Now we can get into the process of having to replace that person a little bit later, but for the first couple months when we were just learning the business and getting the hang of actually having a team and being business owners, that manager was pivotal. They thought about things that we didn't think about.
Like,
they
had
covered
things drafted up. They even like mapped out the roles and what specifically they were doing, so we knew exactly, all right, what do I personally need to do, what does Joe need to do, what do you need to do, and what do the rest of the baristas need to do.
Absolutely. So I can't stress enough how awesome it is to buy a business that has management in place. Like, you literally wake up and you're like, oh, I own this business and I don't need to be there today.
Right.
That's crazy. Now you may have to go in eventually at some point in time to do something, but it's the freedom of not somebody looking out for your business while you're not there. And I think it has a lot of...
They probably know more than you do sometimes.
Absolutely. Like, you can't be an expert in everything. So if you have a manager, you don't have to be an expert in everything. As long as you have a SOP and a manager, that's pretty much all covered. And that SOP is kind of like a fail-safe, because if for whatever reason you ever have to replace management, you just have to teach the new management from that SOP. So those two things together is like, man, you have a solid business. I don't care what the revenue and the profits are. If you have those two things, you're like halfway to the win. You're like almost there. And then last but not least, one of the things you might want to consider before selling your business is talking to your team about the potential transition. Now, you don't have to tell them who's going to be buying it or what they're going to be buying it for or when it's actually going to happen, but I think it's really good.
It also doesn't need to be the whole entire team, because that can backfire on you as well.
Yeah, it really can. But I think it's really important that at least with management, you tell them, hey, I'm thinking about selling this place one day, and at least bringing it up and then letting them know, I'm wondering, would you be willing to stay on if I did sell this place? And obviously the best answer is yes. If so, your business is it might not affect the numbers per se, but that new owner is gonna almost intrinsically value your business more over another business that does not have that same general manager. Like, you might be able to negotiate, an extra $10,000 or more out of a potential buyer just because you have that management in place. Maybe even more sometimes, depending on, the situation. So you just want to have that conversation and just really figure out, okay, is the management going to stay? And if there's other key people in your business, you want to also bring it up to them as well. Like, your accountant is a good person because they may have kind of an idea for how you can sell it, but in a tax efficient way. You might want to tell your attorney about it because they might be able to give you some ideas on what to put in the contract so that not only are you getting the most value, but you're getting the most protection as well. You just really want to talk to people about it. You just don't want to up and do it one day without consulting people, because you can do it and end up doing it the wrong way, and it's already too late because you sold it. So
luckily that has not happened to us, and probably will not happen to us because we know to do that now, but we didn't do that with our first business acquisition. I'll just be honest. We just went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
We did not look at anything. We didn't look at what was included with the sale. We didn't have our attorney review the contract. We just read it. What else didn't we do? We didn't talk to our accountant.
We didn't even do a real valuation, honestly.
No, we did not.
We found out later that we got an okay deal on it, but we could have overpaid and wouldn't even even have known.
And we also didn't structure it right.
Yeah, we didn't structure the deal right. So we got the right price.
Okay, price, but structure not great.
Yeah, the terms were horrible. And I would never do that again. But this is why we do this podcast, so that you can avoid some of the really dumb mistakes that we have made in the past. Mm-hmm. It's always easier to hear it from somebody else than to go through it by yourself.
Yeah, and we always want you to remember that the sale of your business should be a win-win situation for all parties involved. There should never be a time where one person is able to be greedy and take more.
Yeah. Or feel taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's on the buyer side or the seller side.
Absolutely.
So we haven't been on the seller side as of yet because we don't have any businesses for sale yet. But we have been on the buyer side, and one, we know that it's easy to take advantage of a seller when they're, let's just face it, when they're desperate, when they have to sell for some reason, whether it's their health, their moving, or whatever the case may be. So it's really easy to get taken advantage of when you are selling your business and you have to sell. But that's why it's important to make sure that you're choosing the right people to sell your business to.
Absolutely. Because the right people are going to make money without taking advantage of people. And that's something that here at Abundant Culture, we believe in karma, and we want to have it on our side. So we try to treat people with the utmost integrity, because we know that, you know, it's really easy for us to be maybe in that situation or a similar situation one day. And we want for somebody else to, you know, really help us out if we're in that situation.
Yeah. And then you also don't want somebody to buy your company and then just drag the name through the mud.
Yeah.
Like
that happens. It's horrible.
You still want the company to be fruitful and successful. Like in Pretty Woman last night when we were watching that, the main character, he bought companies and then just sold them off, like basically sold off like the parts of the company to make the most amount of money. And he, at the end, he felt that that wasn't really what he wanted to do. He wasn't passionate about that, and it seems like he kind of felt bad about it in a way, because he was talking to someone that was going to sell their business, and instead he partnered with them to grow the business. So it was even in Pretty Woman as an example of being a good buyer and seller to each other.
Yeah. And people with integrity eventually over long periods of time will make more money than people who don't have any integrity in the first place. So just do the right thing.
Yes. Do the right thing when no one is watching. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Abundant Culture Podcast with Jazz and Joe. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe, then leave an honest rating and review. And remember, we're ready to buy your business. So if you're ready to sell or passively invest in other small businesses, go to abundantculture.co for more information. We publish episodes every Friday, so we'll see you next week.